welcome to this brief introduction just to Unity. Okay, so I've fired up Unity here. Obviously you can see I've got a number of projects that I've got. You would go to New, stick in a project name here. First one we're going to look at is Pong, so you can stick that in there. What you want to do then is go to 2D, and we're going to look at 2D projects. Don't worry about asset packages, anything like that, and then just hit create project. I'm going to cancel out of that because I've got one already in here, so I'm going to click Pong Lab there. So wait for that just to do what it's going to do. Okay, so you then should see something similar to this. So we're just going to go over some quick bits and pieces within the screen, within what you view here, and just discuss some of those things. So standard kind of setup. Across the top left here you'll see a file, and this is where you can create new scenes and also save your projects and some of the bits and pieces in here. A scene within Unity is just a way of creating sort of different elements, really kind of levels, things like that, but obviously level structure you can create a different way. We'll talk a lot more about that as we progress, but here's where you do that. The main thing to think about here is this is where you save stuff. So this is a file here. We've also got some build settings. Talk about Unity being cross-platform. This is where you can view that cross-platform. So at the moment we're building for Windows x86 that you can see there, and we've got some player settings as well. But we don't need to really think about that too much. Just to orientate yourself so you know what's going on there. So we're just going to change that there. Okay. Got edit as well. Standard sort of stuff. Duplicate will be your friend, so that's Control D. Standard kind of things that you've got here. Another one that we want to look at is project settings. We will be using input changes. This is a way to change the way that you actually input into the game, and we'll come to that, and your lab tutor will talk to you about input as you progress, but that's where that sits. Assets, this is where you can create different assets, different items. This is one of the places that we can create them, sort of folder structures, and we'll talk about folder structures in a second. And this is a place to do that. All your items in here in terms of assets, so you can see that we've got sort of audio, etc. in there, and this is a place to put those. You can import them from the actual Unity store, so go and check out the Unity store if you want to. Packages there as well. Game objects. This is actual sort of objects that we can add into this. So here you can see that we've got a sprite. So this makes the difference between assets and objects. So here we can actually add items to our screen here, or our scene. So we can add things through here, so UI and text, and we'll be doing a lot of that as we progress through this with your lab tutor. Here's a component. Unity is a component-based model, so as you've added a game object, you can then add a component to that, so something to it. So we'll be doing a lot of stuff with physics, 2D, and some audio stuff as well, and etc., and some scripts. So that's in there. And the way this is laid out, I use a kind of standard layout, but you can change this, and this is what you can do within using the windows. Also, what you have up here is layouts, so you can do different layouts for this. So you can go like a 4 split, 2 by 3, those sort of things. So you can change how it was. So you can go back to the previous. So whatever kind of the way that you want it to be. I use the standard one. That's just my preference, but you can play around that if you want to use that. Different ones here. In help, you can actually use a Unity manual, which is really useful. If you want any of those, you can actually check on that, and you should be able to access that here. Okay, so what we're going to do, actually, I'm just going to drop in. No, I won't actually. So over across the top of here, you've got a number of navigation tools. You've got the hand. What that allows you to do is actually move your scene around, and that's really useful. So you can move that to see your item. So what we have here is a camera in the center, so I can move around that camera. Second item here, if I click on this, here is actually just moving. This allows you to move something, whatever the item is that you've clicked on, across its X and Y axis in 2D. In 3D it would be X, Y and Z, so it allows you to move that. So I can move our camera in X and Y. Just then I actually scrolled using the centered mouse button, so I can scroll in and out and actually view those items, view things in and out. The second one, or third one along I should say, is actually for rotation. So if I click on our camera there, I can actually rotate it through those axes as well, for X and Y. So I can rotate that to X and Y in 3 dimensions, the X, Y and Z. The fourth one along here is actually to scale. So I can scale an item through this. With the camera you won't really see that. You may see some values change. If we look up here, see the scaling values change, and that's what that does. Within the fourth or fifth one along here, what this does is actually, if we had an item in here, we can actually expand it and change its not just scaling, so scaling across it, but actually expanding in directions, so X and Y. And we can talk a bit more about that with your lab tutor as well. So what you saw here is in this inspector, you saw these values change as I move something. So if I go back to here, you saw these values change as I moved up and down in our position. So this is our inspector window. So anything that we want to look at, we can see in our inspector window. We can see like the transform position. We also have like background colors, etc. These are all the attributes that you can see in the camera. So it's really useful and vital actually for what you're going to be doing. A really useful thing actually is up here. We can reset everything back to its position, central position, and reset all the values back. And that's really useful when you're adding something in. So we'll talk a bit more about that. So as I said, we use the central mouse button to zoom in and out. There are some other keyboard shortcuts, but we'll talk about those as we progress. Okay, that's it.